The countdown has begun, and with every passing second, Sean Diddy Combs edges closer to the day that could define the rest of his life. October 3rd. Not just another date circled on the calendar, but the day a federal judge will lock eyes with him and decide his fate. Will he walk away under strict conditions, or will he be escorted to spend years behind steel bars? Right now, he sits in a cold, concrete cell, marking the days, each one dragging slower than the last. Beyond those prison walls, the world is buzzing with predictions, debates, and speculation. But inside, the silence is suffocating, broken only by the slam of iron doors and the endless loop of his own thoughts. The trial itself is already history. The jury has spoken. The guilty verdict on 2 charges is set in stone. While they may not have been the heaviest accusations he faced, the punishment they carry is still powerful enough to strip away his freedom for years. That's why October 3rd is more than just a sentencing date. It's Judgment Day, the grand finale of months filled with headlines, legal showdowns, and a relentless media spotlight. Every choice is made since that verdict has been deliberate. Every meeting with his lawyers is not conversation, but survival strategy. Before we break this down even further, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss stories like this. Now, let's get right back into it. Because when you really think about what's at stake, the weight of this moment becomes crystal clear. The prosecution is demanding the harshest punishment possible. To them, Diddy is a man who has used fame and fortune as a shield against accountability for years. They'll walk into that courtroom determined to convince the judge that anything less than real prison time will be a disgrace to justice itself. On the other hand, his defense team is fighting tooth and nail to keep him out of the cell. They are pleading for alternatives, home confinement, counseling, rehabilitation programs. They are shining a spotlight on his charity work, his family ties, and the empire he built that created opportunity for thousands. But in the end, none of those arguments are final. The ultimate decision rests with one man, the judge, and Diddy knows it. Every time the thought crosses his mind, what will the judge say? His chest tightens. This isn't about convincing a jury. There's no flashy defense to sway 12 strangers. It's one man, in a black robe, who holds a key to his freedom or his downfall. As October 3rd nears, every move behind the scenes is a high-stakes gamble. In closed conference rooms, his attorneys sift through endless files, searching for every shred of humanity they can present to soften the blow. From his rough upbringing to his charitable donations, from the music empire he built to the livelihoods tied to his name, they are preparing to paint a picture of more than just a headline. They are trying to remind the court, and maybe even the world, that there's more to the man than the scandal. Meetings drag on deep into the night, the air so heavy with tension you could cut it with a knife. Voices drop to whispers as strategies are tested, and the crash of files slamming against the table cuts through whenever an idea fails to land. Diddy sits through it all. Sometimes is leaning forward, eyes burning with defiance. Other times, he stares blankly at the wall, lost in the terrifying thought of what happens if this all goes wrong. Outside those rooms, the media circus doesn't sleep. Every outlet has a take. Every headline feels like its own verdict. Talk shows rip his reputation apart, while podcasts debate whether he's guilty or a victim of a takedown. On social media, courtroom clips spread like wildfire, each one twisted to fit someone's narrative. His loyal supporters flood timelines with faith and prayers, while his enemies sharpen their knives, demanding a sentence that makes an example out of him. But while the noise grows louder outside, prosecutors are working in silence. They are stacking victim statements, highlighting every damning moment from the trial, and digging into his past to prove this wasn't just a single mistake. They want to paint a picture of a man who lived above the law, a man the system can't afford to show mercy to. October 3rd isn't just a sentencing date. It's their chance to convince the judge that leniency would be dangerous. For Diddy, the waiting is its own punishment. Days blur into nights. The air inside is cell thick with paranoia. The smallest sounds, the jangle of keys, the distant echo of footsteps, can snap him awake, heart racing. Each moment leaves him wondering if the news has arrived early, if his fate has already been sealed before the world even realizes it. He replays the trial in his head over and over, second-guessing every answer, every look, every word that left his mouth. Could he have said something differently? Could one moment have changed everything? The weight of that uncertainty is heavier than the iron bars that surround him. He knows that once the judge speaks, there's no rewinding, no bargaining. October 3rd is coming, and with it, the possibility that his entire world could collapse in a single breath. Each morning in that cell feels like deja vu. The fluorescent lights flicker on at dawn, flooding the concrete walls with a pale glow. Breakfast slides through the slot, lukewarm coffee, eggs that hardly pass as food, but he barely touches it. His mind isn't on eating. His mind is chained to that red circle around October 3rd, a date carved into his thoughts like it was etched in stone. In the rec yard, he moves in silence. Other inmates watch him, some out of curiosity, some because they recognize who he is. A few approach in low voices, asking if the rumors are true, if the judge might let him walk free. He never gives a straight answer, just nods, shrugs, or changes the subject. The truth is, no one knows, not even his lawyers. And in a federal courtroom, false hope can be just as dangerous as fair. Back in his cell, the hours stretch like years. He flips through legal papers, reading the same pages until the words blur, trying to lock every argument into memory. Sometimes he writes letters, some to family, some to people he hasn't spoken to in years. Apologies, explanations, pieces of his soul. They sit stacked neatly on his desk, unsent, because he can't decide whether to send them now or wait until after October 3rd. The jail sounds blur into background static. Metal doors slam. Guards bark names. Muffled laughter echoes down the halls. But it all fades when his mind drifts to the image of that courtroom. The judge looming high above. Prosecutors on one side, his defense on the other. He imagines a silence, the entire room holding its breath as the first words from the bench decide whether he walks out with an ankle monitor or is shackled and led away for years. And the worst part isn't the outcome. It's the waiting. Waiting for the knock on the cell door that says it's time. Waiting for the gavel to strike. Waiting for the single moment that will either open a crack of freedom or slam it shut forever. In those quiet hours, when the noise dies and is left alone with his thoughts, October 3rd feels like a weight pressing in on him from every wall. A reminder that no matter who he was, no matter what he built, the clock never stops. Meanwhile, outside the jail, the storm is only growing. News vans crowd the courthouse steps. Satellite dishes aim at the sky. Reporters rehearse their lines into microphones while every cable channel runs a countdown clock in the corner of the screen, ticking down to sentencing day. Talk shows bring in analysts to predict the outcome. Some calling for years in prison, others clinging to the possibility of a last-minute miracle. On social media, the contrast is impossible to ignore. Courtroom clips sit side by side with old music videos, interviews, and red carpet moments. The superstar and the inmate, two versions of the same man, separated by a single date. For his family, the pressure is suffocating. They move quietly, dodging cameras, avoiding questions they don't want to answer. Friends who once lived in his spotlight have gone silent. Only the few who remain loyal work behind the scenes, gathering character letters, pushing anything that might soften the judge's view. And inside the courtroom itself, the tension builds like a ticking bomb. Prosecutors sharpen their arguments, stacking files and preparing a narrative designed to strip away sympathy. To them, October 3rd isn't just about punishment. It's about making a statement. A statement that even the untouchable can be brought down. Prosecutors are combing through every line of testimony, every exhibit entered into evidence, highlighting the details that paint him as manipulative, dangerous, and unrepentant. They know this is their one chance to convince the judge that this case is bigger than just one man. To them, it's about sending a message that no one, no matter how powerful, is untouchable. Meanwhile, the defense is busy crafting their own picture, a version of Diddy the public rarely sees. They are stacking letters from charities he supported, testimonials from people he mentored, proof of counseling sessions since the trial began. They are building the case that is not a criminal who need to be caged, but a man capable of redemption, someone who can still use his platform to do good. It's a risky gamble, but it's the only road left. Even the courthouse feels the weight of what's coming. Clerks whisper in hushed tones. Security staff double-check every entry protocol. Judges' chambers stay locked more often than open. The air is heavy with anticipation. Everyone inside those walls knows October 3rd isn't just another sentencing date. It's an event. one that will ripple far beyond the wooden benches and echo long after the gavel falls. For Diddy, that day could draw a line under his story, or open a chapter he never wanted to live. In his cell, the trial replays in his mind like a movie on endless loop. Witnesses taking the stand, prosecutors hammering every point, the judge's gaze drilling into him when certain evidence hit too close. He tries to cling to the not guilty verdicts on the major charges, hoping they might soften the blow. But the truth is undeniable. 2 federal convictions are still enough to strip away his freedom for years. Pinned on his wall is a small calendar. Each morning, he drags a thick black line through the previous day. At first, the marks felt like progress, one day closer to resolution. But now, with October 3rd looming, those lines look more like a countdown to impact. Each strike of the pen knots his stomach tighter, a reminder that the clock is closing in. His lawyers visit often, arms full of folders and laptops. Their voices switch between encouragement and blunt reality. They talk about motions filed, letters collected, rehabilitation programs outlined. They explain how they'll frame his story in front of the judge, how they'll prove as a man who has already begun to change. But behind the polished strategies, Diddy sees it, that flicker of doubt in their eyes. They know, like he knows, that once a judge makes up their mind, no speech can rewrite the ending. At night, when the lights snap off and silence takes over, the noise in his head grows louder. He imagines walking into court, shackles rattling with every step. He imagined his mother in the front row, her silver cross clutched tight, holding back tears as she prays for mercy. He imagines a gavel rising, the entire room frozen, waiting for words that will seal his fate. Outside, October 3rd has turned into a spectacle. People talk about it like a sporting event, predicting outcomes, placing bets. Analysts debate on A, social media floods with theories, and strangers argue about a future they'll never live. But for Diddy, it isn't a headline or a game. It's a day that decides where he wakes up on October 4th. A free man under restrictions, or another number in the system. The pressure doesn't just weigh on him, it crushes everyone around him. His family lives in limbo, trapped between hope and dread. His mother whispers prayers into the same silver cross she held during the trial, begging for the judge's heart to soften. His closest circle keeps quiet, moving in shadows, holding on to faith while the world outside sharpens its knives. And through it all, time marches forward, dragging him toward the one date he wishes he could skip but never can. His children keep a low profile, trapped between loyalty and judgment. Every step outside their doors is stalked by paparazzi, cameras flashing, questions hurled, each photo waiting to be spun into the next headline. For them, October 3rd isn't just their father's hardest day. It's theirs too. His legal team knows it. They've shifted from trial mode into survival mode. Days blur together with motions filed, sentencing guidelines dissected, speeches rehearsed until the words feel like scripture. They push the narrative of redemption. Diddy the father, Diddy the philanthropist, Diddy, the man seeking counseling, the man willing to change. But every time they speak hope into existence, those guilty counts loom in the background like storm clouds no spotlight can chase away. The prosecutors, meanwhile, sharpen their arguments like blades. Victim statements are prepared, words designed to slice through any sympathy the defense manages to stay. Their case isn't about mistakes, it's about patterns. They want the judge to see danger, not redemption. And behind their calm tones, there's a fire. This isn't just a case to them. It's their chance to prove that celebrity, money, and legacy mean nothing when the gavel drops. Outside, the noise only grows louder. Fans clash online, some pleading for mercy, others demanding years behind bars. Talk shows debate sentencing ranges like scorecards. Late-night hosts turn it into punchlines. Industry insiders whisper about hip-hop's future. And still, beneath the chaos, one truth cuts through. This feels less like one man's sentencing, and more like an entire culture being judged alongside him. But in his cell, the noise dies. The cell door closes. The world falls silent. And in that silence, Diddy faces the only voice he can't escape. His own. Regrets circle back. Memories blur with fears. He knows the world will move on after October 3rd. But for him, that gavel's echo will never fade. It will mark the start of a new reality. A reality that could cage him for years. The courthouse has already become a stage, waiting for its final act. Reporters camp outside, microphones tested, cameras aim at the doors as if the bricks themselves might break the silence. Inside, the benches are polished. The jury box sits empty. And above it all, the judge's bench towers like a throne. Every detail feels rehearsed for history. He knows exactly how it will play. Marshals leading him in, shackled at the wrists. The metallic rattle of chains announcing his entrance. Quiet gasps from the gallery. The relentless clicking of cameras desperate to freeze his downfall in a single frame. He replays it in his mind, over and over, as if bracing himself could soften the humiliation. But deep down, he knows there is no preparing for this moment. The defense table will be covered in papers and exhibits, lawyers whispering last-second reminders, projecting confidence they don't fully feel. Across the aisle, prosecutors will sit stone-faced, binders aligned, their silence as sharp as their arguments. And between them, elevated above it all, sits the only man who matters, the judge, silent until the end, watching, weighing, holding Diddy's future in his hands. The gallery will be full, family members clinging to hope, victims demanding justice, activists, reporters, and strangers who just want to witness history unfold. Some will pray for mercy, others will beg for punishment, but when the proceedings begin, all of them will fall silent. Every breath in the room will wait on the same moment. The silence in that courtroom will be unlike anything Diddy has ever faced. No booming bass, no flashing lights, no loyal entourage hyping him up. Just four walls, a judge in black robes, and a crowd waiting to see if his world collapses into the size of a prison cell. He'll sit there stiff, jaw locked, hands gripping the edge of the table, every nerve in his body screaming while the weight of October 3rd presses down like a tombstone. And when the judge finally lifts his gaze, leaning forward to deliver the words that could erase everything, time itself will hold its breath. The world outside will freeze. Cameras will explode in flashes, but even the shutters will feel muted under the gravity of the moment. Because what comes next isn't just another sentence. It's his freedom, his family, and his legacy, balanced on the lips of a single man with a gavel. The judge will shuffle the papers slowly, deliberately, letting the silence swallow the room. He'll clear his throat, his eyes locking onto Diddy's face, and every soul present will tighten their chest waiting. Diddy's fingers will clamp down so hard on the wood his knuckles will bleach white, his heart pounding like a war drum. Every sound will fade, the whispers, the camera clicks, until the only thing left is a voice that decides his fate. But the words won't come fast. The judge will begin slowly, almost methodically, walking everyone back through the trial. He'll acknowledge the defense, the pleas, the promises of redemption, the letters begging for mercy. And then his tone will sharpen, like a blade being unsheathed, as he recalls the evidence, the victims, and the pain left behind. The message will be clear. This is about justice, not reputation. Every word will hit the room like a hammer, shattering the last illusions of control. Diddy's family in the front row will cling to each other, praying through trembling lips. The prosecutors will sit taller, their faces glowing with the calm satisfaction of a storm finally breaking. His lawyers will shift nervously, pens twitching in restless hands, stealing hopeless glances at the man they failed to save. And then the judge will stop, pause, and let the silence stretch into something unbearable. The gallery leans forward as one, eyes wide, lungs locked, hearts pounding. Diddy swallows hard, his lips parting slightly, bracing himself for the blow he can't buy, charm, or negotiate his way out of. This is it. The one moment that strips away every ounce of power, leaving him just another man waiting for judgment. And when the judge finally speaks, the words crash down like a thunderclap. The sentence rips through the courtroom, through the city, across the world. For Diddy, it is a sound that defines the rest of his life. His shoulders might sag in surrender, or his eyes might burn in disbelief, but no reaction can undo what's just been spoken. The gavel rises, wood meets wood, and the echo seals his fate. October 3rd is no longer a date on a calendar. It is a day history will brand as the hardest of his life. The silence shatters instantly, not with cheers, not with applause, but with a raw, uncontrollable outpour of human emotion. Gasps and sobs ripple from one side of the room, victims clutching each other as justice finally feels real. On the other, family members collapse into their seats, crying out in disbelief, refusing to accept the words they just heard. Reporters explode into motion, keyboards clattering, cameras flashing nonstop, desperate to capture every flicker of reaction. At the center of it all, Diddy sits frozen, stunned. His lips tremble, his jaw locked tight, his eyes darting from the bench to his lawyers to his family. He tries to hold the mask, but the sentence cuts through every layer of control. For a heartbeat, he closes his eyes, wishing he could wake from this nightmare. But the cold rattle of the cuffs at his wrists yanks him back into reality. The bailiffs close in, calm, efficient, unshakable. His lawyers lean into him, whispering frantically about appeals, about credits for time served, about strategies for tomorrow. But their words blur into nothing against the storm raging inside his head. Only one sound remains. The judge's voice dropping when he said the number. The gavel striking like the slam of a prison door. When the guards lift him to his feet, the courtroom feels smaller, suffocating. The walls closer, the air heavier. He turns toward the gallery, his eyes finding his mother. Tears stream down her face as she mouthed the words he doesn't need to hear to understand. Stay strong. He nods once, body trembling with rage, fear, and sorrow, before the guards steer him away. And then the chaos erupts, reporters shouting questions, cameras bursting with light, families wailing, lawyers scrambling to seize a narrative before it slips from their hands. Some race for the exits, eager to be first to break the story. Others sit frozen, still trying to process the history that just unfolded in front of them. For Diddy, the chaos will fade the moment he's led through the side door. The sound of chains, the hollow slam of a heavy door, the echo of boots on concrete. Those will replace the screams and whispers. With each step, the truth will sink deeper. October 3rd won't be remembered by him as a courtroom drama or a headline. It will be remembered as the day his freedom was stripped away in front of the entire world. No matter how many appeals his lawyers file or how many stories the media spins, that single moment will define him for the rest of his life. When the heavy courtroom doors close behind him, the verdict's echo won't stay trapped inside those walls. It will ripple through the culture he helped build. No longer the mogul who commanded stages, filled arenas, and shaped a generation. He will be the man defined by the words spoken from a judge's bench. That day will cling to his name like a shadow, replayed on every news broadcast, debated in podcasts, dissected on every feed. The music industry will reel. Contracts will be reconsidered. Endorsements will vanish. Legacies will sour. Some artists will quietly distance themselves. Others will point to his downfall as a cautionary tale, proof that fame and money can't shield anyone from accountability. The culture will march forward, but it will march with a scar, a reminder of how quickly empires crumble when truth catches up. For his family, October 3rd will mark the beginning of a new reality. His children will grow under its shadow, reminded at every turn of the day their father was taken away. His mother, who prayed for mercy, will carry the image of a son in chains for the rest of her life. Their timeline, like his, will split into two eras, the years before October 3rd and the years after. Inside prison, the countdowns will flip. No longer days left until sentencing, but days served toward release. Each sunrise a reminder of what was lost. Each night an echo of what could have been. The songs he once sang, the stages he once ruled, the legacy he once built, distant memories drowned out by the clanging of cell doors and the weight of routine. And for the public, October 3rd will become a landmark. Not just another sentencing, but the day one of hip-hop's most powerful figures was dragged to the same ground as everyone else. People will argue whether justice was done. Too harsh, not harsh enough, but they'll never forget the image of Diddy in that courtroom, jaw tight, hand trembling, hearing the words that shattered his world. That's why October 3rd will be the hardest day of his life. Not because it ends his story, but because it rewrites it forever. No matter how many years he sows, no matter what redemption he chases, that date will never fade. It will live on as the day the lights dimmed, the music stopped, and the man who once seemed untouchable finally faced the full weight of judgment.